Hi, welcome to Learn Something New with the Ray. Thank you guys so much for joining me. We have a full house for today's interview. I have with me Brad Davis, Matt Quiery, and Sean Dunlap. We have all over the place. So I am going to keep introductions really short on my end. I'm Anna Cullen with the Ray, but I'm just going to turn it over and let each of you introduce yourselves and tell us, where are you?
Hey, good
Brad,
afternoon. I'm Brad Davis. I am on the Ray at exit 6. And if you're familiar with Georgia, I'm just north of the Kia plant, standing among some wildflower plots here. Good to be with you.
Hey there, everybody. My name is Matthew Quiery. I'm a graduate assistant, a Master's of Landscape Architecture student at UGA, and I'm also at Exit 6, just a few hundred yards away from Brad. I'm in our Kernza wheatgrass plot. Good to be with you today.
All right, and I'm Sean Dunlap. I'm here in wonderful Athens, Georgia, on South Millage campus at U Garden, a student-run horticultural farm and the site of a planting design test that CED has been going for over 3 years now.
That's awesome. Well, I'm so excited with me. I want to start the current system. So, Matt, can you tell me a little bit about first what is Kernza? Why is it special, and why is it on the side of a highway?
So Kernza is a perennial wheatgrass, and by perennial, that means it should live and flower and produce seed for more than 2 consecutive seasons. We hope it's much longer than that. It was developed by the Land Institute in Salina, Kansas, and they've been working with this crop since 2003. At the Ray and with the UGA CED, we planted this test plot in 2017. So it's been growing for 3 years on the side of the highway, really to see if it could make it here. The perennial wheatgrass is more cold hardy, and we know it does well in northern climates. So we just wanted to see if it could survive in Georgia on the side of the highway, and it's really done a great job. And we're working with it because it has a number of applications that we feel can really improve our roadside landscapes in terms of sustainability, beauty, and other productive means, and carbon sequestration as well.
Carbon sequestration. Now, that sounds like something we care an awful lot about, the Ray. Can you tell us a little bit more into that? What are the opportunities for carbon sequestration?
So as the climate gets warmer, a lot of it has to do with carbon in the air, and plants are the best source of using carbon out of the atmosphere. They take the carbon in the air and turn it into the oxygen that we breathe. Trees do that very well. And in terms of sequestering it, that means holding it in the plant or holding it in the earth so that it's taken out of the atmosphere for good. So if we can grow this perennial grass, it can take the carbon and hold it, and then it has the other benefits of stabilizing the soil and reducing maintenance, all these other positives we hope for. But we're really just making sure it can live in South Georgia or Southwest Georgia and thrive in this often difficult climate.
Awesome. So I think the next thing I wanted to talk about was weed mitigation. So I think both Brad and Sean, y'all are in pollinator meadows and places where we're growing flowers. So first of all, why are we, controlling for, weeds on the side of the highway? And, are there ways that we can do that without using chemicals?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And certainly most people would wonder why, what makes a difference. And one of the goals of the research is to control weeds, because many of our so-called weeds in the southeast are not native and not especially beneficial to pollinators, maybe not producing a lot of flowering and nectar sources for bees and other pollinators. So we are really trying to develop mixes that can be installed and provide lasting year after year perennial benefit for really the whole ecosystem. So our seed mixes are designed to do that. And in just a few minutes, we'll kind of talk a bit more about, what makes a seed mix perennial like that versus annual, and what can we expect to see.
So what about the U Garden?
Yeah, so out here at the U Garden, the research trial has been testing out different weed suppression techniques and strategies. And one of those is to plant the seed mixes that Brad was referencing within a bed of either sand or granite fine, real fine mulch. And then that way it would suppress the weeds that are embedded in the seed bank and gives the plants that you want a little bit of a head start to outcompete the very weedy seed bank that we do have here in the Southeast. And so and that's one of the treatments that we're testing out here at the trial garden, is to determine whether or not a sand or a granite, in this case, a granite fines mulch, and then also different maintenance versus weeding versus mowing versus the use of fire to suppress weeds.
So you mentioned wildflowers earlier. So, Brad, what kind of wildflower mixes, how do we put the innovation in wildflower mixes when we're talking about what we're doing there at Exit 6?
Yeah, thanks for the question. And I think what I'll do is turn my camera around, if I can manage that here. And so this is one of our research plots down at Exit 6. And this is a wonderful wildflower mix. And what that means to us is primarily perennials that are native to the Southeast. So they occur somewhere here in the Southeast naturally on their own. But what we've done is kind of cram them all together into a seed mix that does kind of what I mentioned earlier, which is to favor the use of forbs, which is another way of saying flowering plant.
I think we lost you, Brad. I don't think we can hear you anymore. Brad, can you pick up where Brad left off?
Yes, can you hear me, Anna?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So I think where Brad was heading with the Meadow mix trials is most meadows in the United States, when you plant them, are a percentage of grasses and forbs mean flowering plants. And most of the time, that's an 80% grass to 20% flowers. And we've been researching in the literature and then in our own ways, starting at the U Garden where Sean is, and off of the work of James Hitchmo in the United Kingdom, of really flipping that percentage. So our mixes featured 80% flowering plants and 20% grasses. And that has a lot of benefits for the ecology, but the reality is most of the general public will agree hands down it's just prettier. And oftentimes when you drive by a field of tall grasses, if you're not an ecologist, you might wonder, why haven't they mowed that lately? And so in many ways, the flower power in the mix of 80% flowers really shows the general public that this is designed with a purpose. It's people are becoming more aware of pollinators and the need to help the butterflies and bees and other pollinators, their importance in the ecosystem. So this meadow mix of 80-20 flowers to grasses meets that pollinator goal, but it also meets just the demands of the general public and beauty. But as we've already talked about, there are other layered goals of management, weed suppression without herbicides, and ultimately, we hope it's just better for the bottom line as well. We hope to prove that in the long run, this is financially sustainable, and honestly an improvement from just mowing the grass for normal.
So my next favorite topic is slope stabilization because we've got a lot of that Georgia clay. So let's talk about that Georgia red clay and slope stabilization. What are we doing about it? And again, why does it matter? You know, it's something that I'm used to seeing when I drive around. So why is that something we want to mitigate?
I don't know if you can see it in the distance. I'm trying to put the camera on the slope of the bridge embankment, and you can even 40 yards away from me see bare red Georgia clay. And so I'm standing in the Kernza wheat plot just a few yards away, and that's one of the goals of Kernza, but specifically other plants and other projects coming down the line at Exit 6. So that bare soil is very susceptible to erosion and washing into the rivers and streams, and that's a bad thing. And it's a poor quality. It's a sign of poor quality when plants don't even grow on the soil. And oftentimes we see that on roadsides because these are heavy construction sites. I'm sure everyone has seen those massive machines that it takes to create the infrastructure that we use every day. These roads and bridges have to last for decades. But in the process, the soil is compacted, the topsoil is stripped and removed. So there's a planting solution in that design of using native perennial plants again to vegetate the slope so it doesn't wash away, to cover the soil, and so that it improves over time. Plants just have an amazing way of their leaves that fall each year slowly decay and create its own compost layer, and that turns into soil slowly over time. But clay is a challenging soil type that we're all too familiar with in Georgia. The reality is, being in the Piedmont region, which is an eco region, maybe people have heard of, that's another benefit we have in Georgia, where all of these amazing perennial plants are native to. And it just takes the time and effort to see what will work in these challenging environments. And that's what the benefit of the University of Georgia, the Ray, and GDOT all working together at Exit 6, so that in a small way we can test it here. But if it works here, it can work at a minimum in Georgia, but we hope even further beyond that as well.
Well, so I think my last real big question is, what are you looking forward to the most? When we look at what is next, when you think about nature tech, what is the most exciting for you down the road? Tell me what gets you excited.
So hopefully you can see this ladybug. Not sure if it's in view.
I can.
So it's just hanging out on this Kernza, but it's good timing as it flies away. The reality is, roadside landscapes have been a long forgotten part of our landscape. Roads play an important part in our daily lives. And these landscapes are equally important, but they just haven't been given the attention because budgets are tight. Everyone has been distracted. We're not the only people doing this. I don't want to say we are, but I'm most excited that that Exit 6 and these projects we've mentioned, the Meadow trials, the Kernza wheatgrass, the slope stabilization, and we have even more coming in, of showing how thoughtful planting design can solve these challenges, I'll call them, that are just all too common. And in the past, we've used riprap, big rocks, concrete, herbicides, things that don't have nature first. And so these planting solutions recognize the importance of working with nature, still solving the problem in a meaningful, beautiful way. looking forward to taking this a step further. This small plot has proven that it can live here. Now we want to look at other ways it can be used and productive, and honestly ways that maybe the Land Institute didn't originally think about. But the plant has lots of potential, and we're just getting started.
Well, I am just, I know we've had a few technical difficulties, but I really enjoyed having you guys here and having this conversation and seeing the ray. We're filming this and having this conversation in early June, so we're right in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. So I haven't been to the ray myself in a while, so I'm loving seeing the ray from your screen. So thank you for sharing the ray with all of us and for being there and talking about the great work that we're doing at Exit 6.